Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. So I just finished a really good book. I was not expecting to actually like it because it falls in the horror realm, and I don't typically like books that fall in that realm. But that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno, and like, oh my goodness, it's so good. I think I like it because it's more of the Gothic horror style, so kind of along the lines of a lot of what was coming out in the 19th century, but with, you know, some modern twists to it. Very film noir, very 1950s as well. And I was reading this partially in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. As you guys know, I always try to at least get one book in during the time of the year when we are celebrating different backgrounds and different heritages. And so I was very excited. It's been on my list for a while. It's like one of the first books I ever actually put on a book list. And I just haven't gotten around to reading it, but I finally got around to reading it. So good. 5 out of 5. I have very few complaints about the book. I will say that there were several times where I was like yelling at the book, which is very common for me when I really get into a book. If I'm yelling at the book, then it's good. So for those of you that don't know, Mexican Gothic, it's about a girl named Noemi and her cousin Catalina, and Catalina gets married to this guy, and it's kind of a rushed marriage, and everybody's kind of concerned about it, but you know, you can't really stop true love if that's what it is. And then they get, Noemi and her family get a very odd letter about something that's happening in Catalina's marriage. It just doesn't really make sense. It's kind of all over the place. And so Noemi goes to visit Catalina in her new home, which is called the High Place, which is in like the middle of nowhere town near a silver mine. And she discovers that her cousin thinks that she's being poisoned, and her cousin is correct, she is being poisoned. And then Noemi starts to be poisoned as well, and just kind of a lot of like weird craziness that happens. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of complaints about the book. I think if there was one complaint, it was each time like a new piece of information was discovered, I was kind of like, did we need to add that as well? It was just a lot. There was a lot going on with the family that Catalina marries into, which is called the Doyle family. And the Doyle family is like this old English family, or supposed to be this old British English family, who came over from England to run the silver mine kind of right before the revolution in Mexico, where they're, you know, trying to get away from the Spanish and all that. And it turns out the Doyles are actually they've discovered some kind of key to some level of immortality, which involves a lot of incestuous kind of relationships. So, you know, like cousins marrying cousins type thing. And like sharing spouses, it's not really polygamy so much, but like sharing spouses in terms of like the main dad of the family, he like marries one person and then like also like has relations with her sister. It's like that kind of incestuous, and then like they expect those kids to get married. It's weird. But it was like every time like new information like that would drop, I was like, wait, what? What is happening here? But the rest of the story is very intricate, lots of history. The main characters, she's kind of into anthropology and history and stuff, and so I love that the author really kind of infuses a lot of Mexican history into the story, which was great. She also infused a lot of science and naturalist stuff in there, yeah, just really interesting. I will say there were several moments where I was like, the reason that they're getting poisoned or how they're getting poisoned. I called it from like the first moment back when I was in college and going through my degree. As a lot of you all know, I got my degree in theater education, so theater major, but my professor always talked about gun in Act 1, and for those of you that don't know, if you see a gun in Act 1, it usually means it's going off in Act 3. The gun in Act 1 is these mushrooms that are growing, right? And there's also a literal gun too, although it was not in Act 1, it was like in Act 2.5. But so they keep talking about these mushrooms, and like from the first page I was like, there's something up with the mushrooms. Why are they all eating mushrooms? Like mushrooms. And I'm not a big mushroom person. Only recently have I actually kind of gotten into the mushrooms, in terms of like eating mushrooms. I just don't like them. They're slimy, they're gross. But if you chop them up very, very finely and make like a really good like mushroom ketchup or mushroom gravy, I'm usually okay. But yeah, so like mushrooms come up at the beginning, and they're talking about all these different funguses and how they can affect you, whether you're breathing them in or you're eating them or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a major thing. And I kept saying it for like the first 10 chapters, and then they finally like get around to explaining what's up with the mushrooms, and I'm like, I told you, as if the book can speak to me. But yeah, so there's some stuff in it that if you're an avid reader or a person that's like really into stuff like this, you're gonna figure out the ending very, 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 very quickly. It was a very obvious ending. However, that said, the ride to get to the ending was definitely worth it. I know, I think that they are of course in talks to make this into a TV show or a movie, and I would be very interested to see who they cast in each of the roles, what kind of process it's going to be. I don't necessarily know that this would be one that I would watch if it does ever become a TV show or a movie, simply because there's a little bit of violence, and it might go, like, I could see a showrunner taking the violence too far, even though it's not terribly exhaustive in the book. You know, nothing super crazy, but I could see a showrunner like being like, we've got to get as much as humanly possible, and I'm never a fan of that. But yeah, it is. At first when I was reading it, I was like, actually, I don't think this is a young adult book, and then by the time I got to the end, I was like, yep, it's a young adult book, or an adult book, so it definitely does have some adult themes. So I could also see a showrunner pushing those adult themes to the nth level. But like legitimately, if I was turning this into a show, there are so many like avenues and side stories as well that you could really highlight in a TV show, that I don't think they dive into super great in this story. It's kind of a lot of, oh, this happened in the past, and you know, they talk about it for a couple pages and then they move on with the real story. But I think it would be so cool if you could like actually see a lot of those little side vignettes that she had. But yeah, so there you have it. Like I said, Mexican Gothic. Great book, great read for Hispanic Heritage Month, great read for Halloween as well. I think this video will probably post after Hispanic Heritage Month is technically over, but before Halloween. So if you want a quick little read, it's a very quick read. Like I read it in 2.5 days, like seriously, very quick read. But this is a great one, and it's a newer book, came out in 2020. So yeah, there you have it. As always, please continue to send book recommendations, and I look forward to seeing you in the next book review. Bye!